I want you to think just for a second about how you organize your day. Or, well, actually, how you organize your entire existence.
Right.
If you look really closely at your life, you know, you probably have this deeply ingrained habit of dividing everything into neat, airtight compartments. Like you have your work bucket.
Yeah, your health bucket.
Exactly. You have your relationship bucket and maybe, I don't know, a separate bucket for your finances. And we spend this massive amount of our daily energy just trying to make sure the contents of one bucket don't spill over and like contaminate the others.
We really do. And it's
Mm.
a behavior we are trained to adopt from a very young age, honestly.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
mean, our entire modern infrastructure is built on this premise of categorization.
Yeah.
You take your physical body to a physician, you take your mind to a therapist, and you take your career ambitions to, a coach or a mentor.
Yeah. Everybody gets their own separate specialist.
Right. We compartmentalize because it creates a sense of control.
Mm.
If life is just a series of isolated containers, we kind of believe we can manage the chaos by just keeping a lid on each one.
But consider the possibility that this exact strategy, the separation we rely on to keep things manageable, is actually the very thing keeping us so exhausted.
That's the core issue, isn't it?
It is. And today, we are taking a deep dive into a really profound piece of writing from a Substack newsletter called the Sacred Return Journal. It was written by Dr. Nomasanto Nitsele, and it was published on July 14th, 2026.
Under the title, The Illusion of Separate Lives.
Yes, exactly. And our mission for this deep dive is to unpack a fairly radical proposition that she makes. Basically, the idea that your isolated life struggles like a frustrating career trajectory or a recurring argument in your marriage or even persistent physical pain, they are not actually separate issues at all.
No, not at all.
They might just be different expressions of the exact same message.
And that requires a fundamental shift in how we perceive our problems. I mean, Dr. Nansali is known as a sacred relationship healer, and she primarily focuses on helping women heal their relationships with their bodies and their emotional patterns.
Right.
But the framework she lays out in this post, it stretches far beyond any single demographic. To understand her conclusion, though, we really have to look at how she arrived at it.
Yeah, because she didn't just like sit down one day and philosophize her way into this mindset.
No, she definitely didn't.
It was forced upon her through a series of very vivid subconscious interventions. Basically, the catalyst was her dreams.
The dream sequences she details are so fascinating,
They really are. She mentions two specific ones in the post. The first one is incredibly visceral. She had a dream about being chased by snakes.
which is terrifying.
Totally terrifying.
Right.
And standard dream interpretation, or just common sense, really, would say that waking up with a pounding heart after being chased by reptiles means you're stressed out.
Right, that you're afraid of some sort of external threat in your waking life.
Exactly. But when she actually analyzed the imagery, she noticed this critical detail. The snakes were not actually chasing her.
Wait, really?
Yeah. They were chasing a version of her that kept running away from herself.
Oh, wow. The precision of that subconscious imagery is what makes it so compelling to me.
Right.
The mind didn't just conjure a scenario about an external predator hunting an innocent victim. It conjured a scenario about internal avoidance.
Yes.
The tension in the dream wasn't the snakes themselves, The tension was the fleeing. It was the refusal to stand still and integrate.
And this image of constant frantic movement, it interacted with another piece of data she had logged like a month prior.
The Transnet dream.
Yes. She remembered this older dream about Transnet. And for some context, Transnet is this massive transport and logistics company in South Africa.
Right.
So when she went back to her journal to read what she had written about that dream a month earlier, the connection just completely crystallized for her. Because think about what a logistics company actually does.
It manages movement.
Exactly. It manages the constant complex movement of goods across vast distances. It is all about scheduling, rerouting, and keeping things in separate shipping containers so they don't crash into each other.
Right, preventing collisions.
So her subconscious was using the imagery of logistics and the imagery of fleeing to demand a full stop. It was basically demanding an audit.
And the concept of an audit, we usually reserve that for corporate compliance or tax season.
Right. Nobody likes an audit.
No, because it implies this rigorous, uncompromising examination of every single ledger. But what her mind was demanding was an inventory of her lived experience, pulling all the disparate ledgers of her life onto a single table.
Yeah, think about how a corporate audit actually functions. When auditors walk into a business, they don't just isolate the marketing department and ignore everything else.
No, they look at everything.
They look at the supply chain, the HR complaints, the quarterly earnings, and they cross-reference all of it. And they do that to find systemic issues like hidden leaks that a CEO might be completely blind to because the CEO is only looking at top-line revenue.
That's a great analogy.
Dr. Nansel realized her subconscious was demanding this exact kind of systemic review, not just of her career, but of every relationship, every season of her life, every disappointment, and every physical symptom she had ever experienced.
Which is huge.
It really makes you wonder, how often do we just write off our dreams as random neurological static when they might actually be trying to hand us this comprehensive systemic report?
Oh, we dismiss them constantly. And I think the reason we dismiss them is that the subconscious just does not respect our artificial boundaries.
What do you mean?
Well, the conscious mind dictates that, say, from 9 to 5, we're only dealing with work problems. With the subconscious, it waits until you are asleep to point out that the way you let a colleague diminish your ideas in a meeting is the exact same dynamic as a toxic friendship you had a decade ago.
Oh, man.
Yeah. It points out the connective tissue. We ignore our dreams because the connections they draw threaten the compartmentalization we rely on to function in modern society.
Right, it messes up the buckets.
Exactly. And Dr. Nitzel's breakthrough was simply that she stopped fighting those connections.
Yeah.
She realized that nothing in her life had ever happened in isolation.
And here is where it gets really interesting. That realization led her to a metaphor that completely reframes the way we approach our daily routines.
The multiple women metaphor.
Yes. She admits in the post that, for years, she operated under the assumption that she was multiple different women.
Like she was literally splitting her identity.
Exactly. There was the woman suffering from severe period pains. Then, in a separate category, there was the woman trying to heal relational trauma. And over in the career bucket, there was the ambitious woman climbing the corporate ladder and building a business.
And she also had the spiritual woman, right?
Yep. The spiritual woman interpreting dreams, and the medical patient trying to navigate a diagnosis of endometriosis. She treated these as completely separate identities, each requiring different strategies, different vocabularies, and different versions of herself.
Which honestly is the logical endpoint of how we are taught to live.
Really?
Yeah, if we look at the history of this, it traces back centuries.
Mm-hmm.
We have inherited a worldview heavily influenced by Cartesian dualism, the philosophical division between the mind and the body.
Right.
Add to that the Industrial Revolution, which formally separated the home from the workplace. We literally have hundreds of years of cultural momentum telling us that our physical health, our emotional well-being, and our economic labor are entirely unrelated domains.
So Dr. Nitzel had just fractured her identity to perfectly mirror the fractures in our societal structures.
Precise.
But she proposes a countermodel. We tend to treat career, relationships, health, and spirituality as if they're entirely different houses, right? Like, we commute from the career house where we put on our professional armor over to the health house where we put on our patient gown, and we deal with completely different sets of problems in each location.
Right.
Her argument is that they are not different houses at all. They are just different rooms in the exact same house.
And the implications of that metaphor are profound.
Right.
Because if there are rooms in the same house, they share the same foundation, they share the same plumbing.
Right.
If there is a fire in the kitchen, the smoke is eventually going to reach the bedroom. She's asking us to consider that your body might be speaking the exact same language your relationships are speaking. Your anxiety, your physical pain, your career ambitions, they're all participating in the same unified conversation.
Okay, but I want to push back on this a little bit.
Sure.
Because while the metaphor is really poetic, taking a frustrating day at work and conflating it with a severe medical diagnosis feels a bit dangerous to me.
How so?
Well, endometriosis is not a bad mood, you know? It is a chronic, often debilitating condition where tissue, similar to the lining of the uterus, grows outside the uterus. It causes severe physical pain. If someone is dealing with a tangible physiological disease, telling them it's in the same room as their career struggles might sound really reductive.
I can see that.
It almost borders on suggesting that a bad boss magically causes an immune disorder.
That is a vital distinction to make, and I'm really glad you brought it up.
Mm-hmm.
because this is where we have to look at the actual mechanism of the mind-body connection,
Yeah.
rather than treating it as something mystical.
Right.
She's not suggesting a magical one-to-one causation where a bad performance review suddenly spawns endometrial tissue. What she's pointing to is the environment of the nervous system.
Ah, the shared plumbing of the house.
Exactly, the shared plumbing. Let's look at the biology of somatic psychology for a second. When you're in a misaligned career or you're navigating a relationship where you constantly have to suppress your true self, running away from yourself, just like the snake dream highlighted,
Yeah.
your body perceives that suppression as a threat. It keeps your sympathetic nervous system engaged in a chronic state of fight or flight.
Wow.
This means your body is constantly pumping out stress hormones like cortisol. And over time, chronically elevated cortisol leads to systemic inflammation.
And endometriosis is heavily influenced by systemic inflammation.
Exactly. So the toxic job does not magically conjure the disease, but the psychological stress creates a biological environment that exacerbates the physical condition.
That makes so much sense.
The mind and the body are not separate entities communicating across a void. They are a single, continuous feedback loop.
That removes the magical thinking entirely. It's not about blame, it's about recognizing the physiological reality of stress. So when she says she was fighting multiple battles, like battling her body, battling her career, battling her relationships, she realized it was all drawing from the exact same finite reserve of energy.
Yes, and that is exactly why this realization is ultimately a relief rather than a burden.
A really
Yeah, because at first glance, integrating everything feels overwhelming. You think, great, now I have to fix my entire life all at once.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
But that is just applying the old compartmentalized logic to a new framework. The relief comes from understanding you don't actually have 5 different complex problems requiring 5 different specialized solutions.
Right.
Her period pains were not exclusively about menstruation. Leaving the corporate world was not exclusively a career strategy. They were the exact same invitation, pointing to a single directive, which is to return to yourself.
It really is a shift from symptom management to root cause resolution, which kind of brings us to the timing of this realization.
Oh, yes.
Dr. Netzel notes that this epiphany coincided with a super new moon. And regardless of where anyone stands on astrology, the way she anchors this concept is incredibly grounded in human psychology.
It really is.
Because we all have this instinct to use external markers like a new year, a new month, a birthday to try and wipe the slate clean, we say, okay, I am going to become a completely new person starting Monday.
Oh, the Monday reset. We all do it.
Right, but she warns against this. She writes that a new cycle does not require a new identity, it requires new awareness.
Because if we connect this to the bigger picture, the desire for a clean slate is often just another form of avoidance.
It's the snakes chasing us again.
Exactly. It's the fleeing. We think that if we just adopt a new persona, we can leave the messy, painful parts of ourselves behind. But you cannot navigate a new season of your life using an old, fractured map.
Yeah, that's powerful.
She states very clearly that you cannot create a coherent life if you fundamentally believe your experiences are disconnected. If you think your physical pain has nothing to teach you about your emotional boundaries, you will just keep repeating the same patterns, just in different rooms of the house.
It's like trying to read a novel where you've convinced yourself that every single chapter belongs to a completely different book.
It's a perfect way to put it.
The plot is going to seem like absolute chaos. Nothing will make sense. So to get that coherence, she advocates for a massive shift in the fundamental question we ask ourselves when we encounter friction.
And that's so important because we are deeply conditioned to ask a very specific, narrow question when we face adversity. We ask, how do I fix this?
Right. Think about your biggest challenge right now, the listener, the thing that is currently keeping you up at night. Maybe it is a persistent tension in your marriage. Maybe you feel completely stagnant and unvalued in your work. Or maybe it's a chronic health flare-up.
We all have something.
Right, and our default setting is to isolate that specific issue, put it in its bucket, and look for the specific tool or hack to eradicate the discomfort. We want the relationship script, or the career pivot strategy, or the new supplement.
Give me the quick fix.
Exactly. But Dr. Netzel suggests dropping the urge to fix it entirely and instead asking, what is this experience trying to teach the whole of me?
That changes everything. It moves you from a state of isolation to a state of integration. What is this trying to teach the whole of me? When you ask that, You strip away the immediate judgment.
You stop fighting it.
Yes,
Yeah.
you stop viewing the physical symptom or the career roadblock as an enemy that has breached your walls, and you start viewing it as a diagnostic tool, a mirror.
A mirror reflecting a part of your nervous system or a part of your emotional landscape that is just asking to be seen, not judged, not optimized, and not suppressed, just acknowledged.
Yeah.
And I mean, understanding this theoretically is great, but what gives this source material so much weight is that she provides a very concrete, mechanical way to test this out yourself. She introduces a journaling exercise that forces this cross-referencing.
It is basically an exercise in conducting your own internal audit.
Right. So she suggests taking a piece of paper and writing down 4 distinct headings. You write my body, my dreams, my relationships, and my work.
The 4 rooms of the metaphorical house.
Exactly. And under each of those headings, you write the exact same prompt, just one sentence. What have you been trying to teach me? So you're asking your body what it is trying to teach you, and then you're turning around and asking your work the exact same question.
The structure of that exercise is brilliant, but honestly, the most critical instruction she gives comes right after the prompt. She explicitly tells the reader, don't force an answer, simply listen.
Well, why is forcing an answer counterproductive here? Like, if I sit down and immediately brainstorm 5 bullet points for my career and 5 for my health, haven't I done the work?
Not exactly.
Oh,
If you brainstorm, you are engaging the conscious analytical mind,
I see.
which is the exact part of you that created the compartments in the first place. You will just write down what you think the answer should be based on your societal conditioning.
So I'd write something like, my work is teaching me better time management.
Exactly. Or, my body is teaching me to eat more greens. That is surface-level logic. By simply posing the question and waiting, you bypass the analytical brain and allow somatic memory to surface.
You create space for the subconscious.
Right. You create space for it to reveal the underlying pattern. And this is the antidote to the way most of us currently try to heal our lives.
You could honestly call it whack-a-mole healing.
That is an incredibly accurate description.
Right.
We really do live our lives wielding a mallet. You smash down a physical symptom with a quick fix, and suddenly a profound relationship conflict pops up. You resolve the conflict, and your career motivation completely flatlines.
It is an exhausting game of chasing symptoms.
It is. What this 4-room exercise often reveals is that you aren't actually fighting multiple isolated problems. You might find that the tension in your shoulders, the recurring dream of being trapped, the arguments with your partner about boundaries, and the frustration with your micromanager, they're all broadcasting the exact same message.
It is all one story, and when you look at the dreams, the somatic reality of the nervous system, and this realization that the house is singular, it all points to one undeniable truth.
It's that.
The person who dreams, the person who experiences physical pain, the person who loves, who grieves, and who works, is the exact same person. You are not a committee of different avatars trying to manage a schedule. You are one biological and emotional organism.
True healing, according to this framework, isn't about perfectly optimizing each isolated category of your life. It is the act of remembering that there was only ever one life to begin with.
And Dr. Nansel is taking this integration work further for her audience, too. She notes in the journal that she runs a masterclass called Healing Period Pains Naturally.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but given this context, it is pretty clear she isn't just handing out basic dietary advice, you know. She is exploring the emotional, relational, and embodied patterns that exist beneath the physical inflammation.
That makes total sense.
She also mentions opening up a 12-week journey called Redefine Womanhood.
Which perfectly aligns with her thesis. It is about exploring the essence of being a whole human being, rather than just training people how to master separate roles as an employee, a partner, and a patient.
Right, checking all the boxes. And she closes her post with a deeply grounding sentence.
And she does. She writes, "You can never run away from yourself as you take yourself with everywhere you go."
Wow. No matter which room of the house you sprint into, you are still the one standing there, breathing the same air, operating the same nervous system.
Exactly.
Which brings up a final thought I really want to leave you with today. We spend an enormous amount of our modern lives chasing this elusive concept of work-life balance.
Oh, the holy grail.
Right. We buy the planners, we download the productivity apps, and we read all the articles designed to help us perfectly balance the scales between the work bucket and the life bucket.
We try so hard.
But if our physiological symptoms, our relationship struggles, our career friction, and our midnight dreams are actually all speaking the exact same language, what happens to the entire concept of balance?
It falls apart.
Completely. If there are no separate buckets, if it's all just one continuous life taking place in one house, maybe the idea of trying to balance separate scales is the very illusion that's keeping us from feeling whole. Let that sink in.